Hey, I'm Matt from Dynamic. Today I'm going to show you how to get started with the Hackathon Starter Kit version of Scaffold ETH2. It comes out of the box with everything that Scaffold ETH2 has, but also integrations with all of the technologies you see on the screen here in front of you. What that means is if you're hacking at ETH Global Brussels, you can integrate these things for a baseline immediately. You spend less time on configuration, less time on playing around with things like Paymaster or PCs and getting your safe account up and running. All of these things add an extra layer of complexity just to set up. So we've handled that for you so that you can focus on what you're actually building. We've also included onboarding, of course, through Dynamic with embedded wallets, EOAs, and much more, as well as support for some of the best EVM networks out there, including, of course, Base, Arbitrum, and many more. Blockscout is integrated, so you can check your transactions. I'll show you that as well. Chainlink, you can do chain abstraction immediately. Pimlico is the paymaster. Safe, like I said, is the AA layer. And off we go. Now, the way in which you install this is very similar to the traditional Scaffold ETH2, but you can actually use our own dynamic CLI. Now, of course, you can clone this project if you want to. Same principle. But if you want to make it even easier on yourself, pop over to your terminal, run npx create dynamic app. It's going to give you a few options. Choose the Scaffold ETH Hacker Edition. I've done this many times, so I hope 5 is available. It very likely is. It will clone it, remove the remote URL, and off we go. I can CD into that project, and all I need to do from that point is follow the Scaffold ETH documentation. It shows you down here exactly how to do that. Yarn install, then run yarn chain, run yarn deploy, and yarn start on different terminal tabs. This will then give you your front end, your local network with Hardhat, and more. You can read through this initial config documentation, but I also encourage you to read through the HackerKit implementation, at least briefly. The requirements you should pay a little bit of attention to. Really, the only hard requirement is to have an env file with your Pimlico API key in it. So go to Pimlico, sign up, get your API key, and pop it in. Now, you don't necessarily need a policy for sponsoring gas. We will only be using test networks. Pimlico by default sponsors test network transactions, so you don't need to do anything special. Again, really fast. This is already covered in the above, run yarn chain. Now we give you a default environment ID from Dynamic. However, when you're ready, replace it with your own. Here it gives you a deep dive into the implementation, which we'll get to in a moment. Let's actually see what we're working with, okay? So over here, I have the front end running. Now I'm already logged in. Let's log out. You can see that Scaffold ETH comes with a whole bunch of useful stuff if you visit their documentation, and it is all compatible with the Hackathon version out of the box. I'll give you a great example. Let's say I want to sign up with an embedded wallet. By default, we have embedded wallets turned on for this environment ID. Now, I've already done this before, so it will have been created, but if you're signing up for the first time, it will also be created. You can customize this sign up screen however you like. Visit our docs or ask me about that. You can go headless. I recommend the UI. You can also do it using hooks, however you like. I'll be right back with this code. And here we are. Super. Really interestingly, since we ran yarn chain and we have our local network, we are immediately connected to this network. Really, really cool, because you've now integrated Dynamic for full onboarding, but you can test it with your local Hardhat network. So let's say you sign a message. I'm going to use a passkey to do so. Immediately done. You want to send yourself some ETH. This is a warning I put in just to make sure you know, because this is a real transaction. So if you are not on a test network, it will warn you. You have now signed. You can then visit your own block explorer and you will see those transactions. Let's say if we go over here. Right there, you can see a transaction hash. So all on your local network, bada bing, bada boom. Easy peasy. Now you can see in our profile here, I have quite a lot of ETH already, but just to prove everything works, let's go for the local faucet, transaction completed, go over to this embedded wallet, and on this network, we have one more ETH. We can also do multi-wallet. So let's say I want to link a new wallet. I'm going to use, let's go for MetaMask, first of all. I'm going to need some real balance here at some stage. I sign in, and I've already linked this to another account, so I'm going to have to relink it to this one. We handle all of these edge cases for you, by the way, with linking, relinking, and if it's already added to another account. Super easy stuff, which, again, is not easy behind the scenes, but it's good that you don't have to worry about it. And now, all we need to do is, let's say, select this wallet, switch to it, and we're good to go. we can now run on MetaMask or indeed any other wallet we choose to. Okay, so something I want to show you here, and this is why I needed a real wallet, is that it's not just the Hardhat network. We've enabled a bunch of EVM networks for you, and you can choose and use these, again, straight out of the box. I won't name them all here, but I'm a big fan of all of them. Now, specifically, I wanted to show you something really cool. We have Arbitrum here, so we can, of course, switch to the Arbitrum network, no problem. But Arbitrum has a really cool new system, feature, platform called Orbit. And Orbit lets you deploy your own L2 or L3 rollup. I think it took me around 10-15 minutes. It's super cool. Again, for ETH Global Brussels, they're promoting it, and it would be a really cool use case to see them together. Now, why am I telling you this? Because over here, I actually have this Orbit chain running. I have my own chain here in Docker, and it's honestly, can't recommend it enough. It's so much fun doing this stuff. Okay, we have this chain running. What does it mean? It means I want to show you a file here in the repository for the Scaffold ETH version. In lib, we have networks. This is where we define our EVM networks that we want to enable. So say you want to enable something else like Metis, all you need to do is copy this, go fetch from Chainlist or some other system the parameters that you need, the block explorer, the RPC, currency most likely ETH. The network ID is almost always the same as the chain ID. You can also give it a vanity name and an icon. So up here, I've taken the liberty of finding these in the config for my own running local chain on Orbit. Oops. If we uncomment this, you can see our block explorer is localhost. Here's our RPC. I've given it a custom icon, and the vanity name, it's into Orbit. So we're trying to plug in a brand new local chain, our own rollup. Let's give that a go. So I may need to refresh, and no, I don't even need to do that. We see into Orbit right here. We can switch the network, and bang. You've just spun up a new chain yourself as a rollup, ran it locally, plugged it into your front end so you can connect and transact immediately. If we go back to home, we should be able to sign, no problem. You can look at the functions for these in the code. It uses dynamic, and you'll immediately know how to send balance, sign messages, stuff like that using Veeam and even WAGMI. Let's go for this send ETH. Again, we're not on a testnet, technically. We are, but I just wanted to make sure. We're going to send that. It's been sent. So if we go to our local host, this by default integrates Blockscout. So again, another tick in a box there. If we go to transactions, you see a coin transfer. So you can immediately dig into this. Really, really cool. You don't have to do anything else. Here we have the details of it, sorry. Already implemented. Okay, back to our code. So we've covered EVM networks. We've covered the onboarding with embedded wallets and multi-wallet. You have your profile right here. You can connect and enable social accounts. I've just done Farcaster for now. What we'll do next is look at the smart wallet functionality. So here we're going to do everything on base Sepolia. I'm going to switch over and I will check that I do indeed have some balance, which we do. That's good news. Now we're going to deploy a safe account. Let's get our AA enabled. Again, because this is not my first time, it's a deterministic address. I'm going to get the same one again. It was already deployed because I did a transaction, but it won't be deployed until you do. You will get the safe address ahead of time. That will not change. And then when you first do a transaction, we'll deploy the account. Okay, so we have some balance. Don't have any USDC in there. I might have to switch to another wallet. Let's check. But we can also try and fund it from the faucet. Let's give that a go. We have faucet.circle. And make sure you switch to base Sepolia. Grab the address, put it here. All right, our testnet tokens are on the way. Amazing. So this may take some time, no worries there. Right here in these tabs, you can start testing transfers, which is super, super cool. We can then do things like send it from a token address to a recipient, a certain amount. We can also, and even more excitingly, do a cross-chain transfer. So if I want to do something like 0.5, I can then initiate this cross-chain transfer. It's going to use the safe account. It'll also use Chainlink behind the scenes. While I do that, I'm just going to go ahead and show you the code for this. So let's initiate. Over in the code, you will see we have some helper methods for Blockscout, which are going to be important in a moment. We also have in components or in app, we have the safe page, and you can see the code to handle all of this here. So you can take this code, completely open source this project. Thanks again to Builders Garden, Limon ETH, and the Herb team for helping get this off the ground. And you can see exactly what you need to do. Okay, over here we have some approvals to do. I'm going to start approving. Now, we've done the basics. Obviously, an iteration that you could do here is do things like bundle transactions and a whole bunch of other improvements. We just wanted to give you the baseline so that you can then build in the way that you wanted to. So I'm going to manually approve each of these. And there we have it. Our cross-chain transfer has been successfully completed. Now, if we go to transactions, I don't even need to refresh. I can see what we did just a moment ago. And here, again, on the Blockscout URL, we have already fetched the transaction details, so we're able to show them in here using those helper functions I showed you earlier, and you can see everything about this transaction. Really interesting. You can see it comes from the safe proxy. You can see what it goes through here, and you can see where it's reaching there. Really, really, really cool. You can see the address that it came from, and you can see the amount over here. Super interesting. Really cool as well, by the way, that Blockscout can show user ops too. Okay. Again, if you want to learn more about Pimlico, because there's a ton more you can add, if you want to learn more about safe, you can do that right here. Okay. If you want to use any other functionality of the original Scaffold ETH, or if you want to add more from dynamic, things such like token gating, access control, there is a ton more. And by the way, we can also support Coinbase Smart Wallet out of the box. And obviously you can use Base for everything else. You can see the helper functionality we have for all of the parts of the SDK and the docs. Over here in the React SDK, we also have a React Native SDK. And then there's the API. So feel free to go check out any of this or just ask me. Okay. Now there's a ton more stuff where this came from. Once again, thanks to Builders Garden, Arbitrum, and everyone here for helping us build something amazing for the hackathon. I think it's going to be super cool. You can easily switch to any of these networks and start building. Also, since this is open source, feel free to contribute. Adding to this is a really cool way to help us move forward as a community, to abstract away some of the complexity of setting up this really cool stuff so we can just start from something which already works. If you want to add another technology, feel free. You already know how to add another network, but there's so much that you could do here, so much. So I'm very excited to see what you build. Happy hacking, everyone.